Good evening, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are live to talk about whether President Biden will drop out of the presidential race. More Democrats are calling today for Biden to drop out, but Biden said he's not going to drop out. And right at this moment, we have a live shot from AFP outside the White House because most of the country's Democratic governors are right now meeting with President Biden. Some are there in person, some are there virtually, but most of the country's 23 Democratic governors are meeting with President Biden now. This meeting came out of concerns they had about what would happen after his poor debate performance last week. I don't know exactly what they're saying in there, oh, what's happening now? Somebody coming out? Who's coming out? Oh, another guard is coming out? Okay, there you go. So that's a live shot. Oh, I should put up the graphic. I'll do that. Ooh. We got to see that. How about that? So we're going to talk about what's going on. Oops. Take some comments and questions from you guys. Can I get this to work? There we go. At Lookner on X is where you can reach me. But that is a live shot outside of the White House while this meeting goes on with most of the nation's governors. How about that? Will we get a statement after the meeting from one or more of the governors about what went on in the meeting? I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Let's see here. So, hey, thanks to our moderators who are here. We have modding right now. Hang on a moment. Ruth Krafasi is moderating. Thank you, Ruth. And also over there on Twitch and Facebook, I want to thank our moderators there. Also, Linda Belk and Larry, who moderate for us on X. David Green, Papa Bear, and Big Ball of Yarn are over there moderating. Over there on Twitch and on Facebook. One moment. Margaret Riley, Kay Larry Body, Christina Neal, thank you so much for modding. So we'll wait and see if we hear any more about this meeting. Again, this is a meeting of most of the nation's governors are meeting, most of the nation's Democratic governors are meeting with President Biden, a meeting that grew out of concerns they had of the political fallout from his poor debate performance last week. So much to talk about here. I'm going to take some comments from you guys, but I want to get you updated first. I'll read a couple of comments first. Envy thinks Biden won't leave. Bugsy says all money is on Kamala. AMF004 says, I'm a Democrat and I realize he needs to drop out. Danette said he initiated this call, I believe, in reports. Actually, I'll tell you, here's what the New York Times says. The New York Times says nearly all of the 23 state governors, Democratic governors, are attending this meeting, either virtually or in person. And hold on a second. Hold on. Blah, 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 blah. CBS News says members of the Democratic Governors Association held a call Monday to discuss the ongoing response to last week's debate and a widespread concern among the state chief executives that Mr. Biden has done little outreach to governors. The governors decided on Monday they wanted to hear directly from the president, which makes it sound like the governors initiated the meeting. Okay. So, hey, quick thanks to our new member, Georgia Peach, also our member, Anak123. Thank you so much, Leonette, for your support. And our member, Kristen. Kristen says, I doubt he'll drop out, but we shall see. So, one thing I want to point out, in case you didn't hear, is that there were a couple of not good polls for Biden today. So, to give you one example of a poll that came out today, there was the New York Times poll and the New York Times poll and the Wall Street Journal poll. So, for example, New York Times poll, Shane Goldmacher, New York Times. He says, the New York Times Siena post-debate poll shows Trump widening his lead among likely voters nationally, gaining 3 percentage points. Trump 49%, Biden 43%. It is Trump's largest ever lead in a Times poll. So that's not good news for Biden. And then there was this one that came out today, the Wall Street Journal poll. As Sahil Kapoor mentioned, new Wall Street Journal poll post-debate, Trump 48%, Biden 42%. Same Wall Street Journal poll in February, Trump 47%, Biden 45%. So the more polls that come out that show Biden not doing well, I think it's natural to think there'll be more pressure on Biden to step aside. No, that is false. Another falsehood in our chat. Another falsehood in our chat. Somebody says, these are old, what was it? These are old polls? They're older dates? These polls are older dates? Boy, that's news to me because Wall Street Journal literally says conducted June 29th to July 2nd. That's interesting. But you're telling me in the chat it's older dates. So I guess you have a better source about the Wall Street Journal poll than the Wall Street Journal. False chat fake news alert, folks. Then the same viewer said that the New York Times was older dates. Boy, that's news to me because the New York Times article itself says the poll was conducted from June 28th to July 2nd. So I guess our viewer knows about the dates of the polls more than the people who conducted the polls do. Wow, that's a really in the know viewer. Anyways, so hey, quick thanks to Bill Ward for your support. Bill Ward thinks the whole reason his advisors allowed him to debate was to have reason to force him to step down. It's their only way to even have a chance to beat Trump in their eyes. I understand the thinking there, Bill. I understand the thinking. I don't know. It feels a little too 4D chess to me to say that his advisors who work for him and in theory who are judged on how they do in their jobs based on how he does, decided to talk him into debating thinking he would do terribly. I don't know. It's a lot for me to swallow. I understand your thinking. It's a lot for me to swallow. I'm just saying personally. You're not the only one who said that. And I get where it's coming from. It's just a lot for me to swallow. Now, is there a world in which he said, I want to debate, and they said, do it soon? And they figured, well, maybe if we do it soon, then if something goes wrong, it'll be better than doing it later? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. It's just, I understand the thinking. It's just a lot to swallow. But that's just my personal opinion. I might be wrong about that. I understand your thought, though, Bill. Thanks so much, Bill Ward. I appreciate it. It's an interesting question. Whether they at all pushed him to do this earlier. I mean, the conventional thinking is that he wanted to do it earlier just because his poll numbers weren't working great, and he wanted to turn things around. So thanks, Bill Ward. Thanks also to Samuel DeMarco. He says, if Biden drops out, what happens to the campaign donations? There's questions about what happens to them, and would they have to go to him or Harris, or could they go to somebody else? Maybe we'll talk about that later in the stream. I'm not well versed on that, and I've heard like people way more knowledgeable than me debate this question, so I don't have an easy answer for you. But maybe we'll talk about it later in the stream. Thanks, Samuel. And thanks to PZ Papa Zulu for the gift memberships. I really appreciate that, PZ Papa Zulu. Thank you. Hey, let's talk about some of the other updates coming out today. Then we'll talk about some other stuff, but in this whole topic. But I want to catch you up on what happened today. So we talked about how right now most of the Democratic governors in the country are meeting with President Biden over concerns they have had about the fallout from his bad debate performance last week. So what exactly they're saying, I don't know. That's a live shot from the White House via AFP where they're meeting. Maybe we'll get a statement after from one or more of the governors. So there's that. As I mentioned, there were some bad polls that came out for Biden today. These are not all the polls that came out today, but the New York Times poll and the Wall Street Journal poll, both post-debate polls, had him 6 points behind Trump, which is not good for him. So there's that. A couple of, so today the second member of Congress said he shouldn't run, and another member of Congress said he has grave concerns about Biden running. So let's talk about that. So the New York Times reported today that Representative Raul Grijalva of Arizona became the second House Democrat to call on Biden to leave the race. He said, if he's the candidate, I'm going to support him, but I think that this is an opportunity to look elsewhere. What he needs to do is shoulder the responsibility for keeping that seat, and part of that responsibility is to get out of the race. So that's the second House Democrat to say he should get out. And then a little while ago, another representative said that he has grave concerns about Biden's ability to beat Trump. Let me show you this. Congressman Seth Moulton, right here. Congressman Seth Moulton. Let's look at what he has to say. He is a Massachusetts Democratic congressman. Seth Moulton said, let me blow this up a little bit here. I deeply respect President Biden and all the great things he has done for America, but I have grave concerns about his ability to defeat Donald Trump. Beating Trump is imperative for the future of our democracy, especially now that the Supreme Court just handed him a blank check to act like a king. Winning will require prosecuting the case in the media, in town halls, and at campaign stops all over the country. President Biden needs to demonstrate he can do that. Look at this. The unfortunate reality is that the status quo will likely deliver us President Trump. When your current strategy isn't working, it's rarely the right decision to double down. President Biden is not going to get younger. Congressman Moulton, a Democrat, says, since Thursday night, I have been having nonstop, tough, honest conversations with colleagues and other Democrats. I'm taking time to seriously consider the best strategy for Democrats to win this election and set our country on a positive path forward. I've already said that America needs to elevate a new generation of leaders, and I respect those colleagues who've already spoken out. We should all have viable options on the table. I mean, to me, this is basically him saying Biden should get out without saying the words Biden should get out. I mean, if you just read it, he really seems to be suggesting that he thinks Biden should get out. So, he's not officially a congressman asking Biden to step aside, but basically, he seems kind of like the third one who's asked him to not run. So there's this question out there. I have heard some reporting suggesting that there's a lot of congressmen who actually think this, but have not come out and said it yet. And now I don't know if that's true. For example, I saw this today. Bloomberg reported today. That dozens of Democratic lawmakers are considering signing a letter demanding that President Biden withdraw from the race. A senior party official said as panic mounts that he will cost them control of Congress. And Bloomberg also reports that Biden is rapidly losing the support of Democratic lawmakers and candidates, concerned that his continued candidacy would lead to a Republican sweep of Washington in an unchecked Donald Trump presidency. So that's coming from Bloomberg today. Give me 1 second here. One moment. So we're going to take some comments on the air from you guys. Hold on. 1 moment, please. What is going on here? Oh, I know what happened. Sorry. Let's try this one more time. Just give me 1 more second here. All right, you can give me a shout. Let me know what you think at Lookner on X. Oh, where is it? Everything's falling apart here. Everything. Hey, I'm gonna let you look at for 1 second. I'm gonna let you look at the. Here's the shot of the White House. Just give me 7 seconds here. Give me 7 seconds. was muted. I was muted. Sorry. I was muted. So this live shot here is from right outside the White House, where Biden is meeting with most of the country's Democratic governors. That is going on right now, that meeting. We may get a statement from one or more governors after this meeting. So we are keeping an eye on that too. Will Biden do another debate with Trump? I'm sure he'd be overjoyed to if he's still in the race. I don't know that Trump will want to do it. I don't know why Trump would want to give Biden a chance to do better in a debate. If you were Trump, would you want to give Biden a chance to do better in a debate than he did? John 1948 says someone moved in the window. This is the stakeout going on outside the meeting. Supegdak King thinks Trump should never do another debate. American Builder says Trump doesn't care, he would debate again. Oh, I have an update here. Well, that doesn't make sense. I thought there were only 23 Democratic governors. One reporter said they're meeting with 24 Democratic governors and the D.C. mayor. But I thought there were only 23 Democratic governors. Let me look this up. Yes, there are 23 Democratic governors and 3 territorial governors who are Democrats, according to Wikipedia. There was another thing I want. Oh, I wanted to. Something else happened. Something else happened late today, which I want to mention to you guys. Something else happened late today. The New York Times came out with a story today that said Netflix co-founder becomes one of the biggest Democratic donors to call for Biden to step aside. Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, who in recent years has become one of the biggest donors to the Democratic Party, today called on President Biden to relinquish his place atop of the Democratic presidential ticket. He became the first to say publicly what many Democratic megadonors are saying privately, says the New York Times. In an email to the New York Times, Reed Hastings said, Biden needs to step aside to allow a vigorous Democratic leader to beat Trump and keep us safe and prosperous. So that's another thing that happened today. So, as I mentioned, we have some bad polls today for Biden. We had a second congressman, Democratic, said he shouldn't run. We had another congressman all but say he shouldn't run. Another Democratic congressman. We have one of the biggest Democratic donors coming out publicly and saying that he shouldn't run. And again, I have heard a bunch of reporting. I can't say whether it's true, but there's a lot of reporting floating around. I mean, I just read you one such report that says among Democratic politicians and Democratic donors and prominent Democrats, there are a bunch more of them who agree that Biden shouldn't run. They just haven't come out and said it yet. And so I just showed you here that the New York Times is claiming that many Democratic megadonors are saying this privately, that he shouldn't run. But he's the first one, Reed Hastings, to say it publicly. And I also gave you that report from Bloomberg saying that dozens of, what was the exact wording in the Bloomberg one? Dozens of congressmen are considering signing a letter telling Biden to not run. Where was it here? Bloomberg said dozens of Democratic lawmakers are considering signing a letter demanding Biden withdraw from the race. So how many other prominent Democrats are out there that are thinking to themselves, I don't want him to run, but either they're not sure about saying it or they're going to say it, but they're not saying it yet. They're waiting for other people to say it. Could there be this kind of sudden dam burst of a lot more people saying this? Beats me. Red Squirrel says, it's not an easy decision. It's a gamble keeping him and a gamble not keeping him. The Perryman says, anyone who's seen the debate knows Biden is done. Linda Meck says he is going down in the polls. Paper City Gamer says, I don't know why we can't hear from his doctors. All other presidents, the doctors make press conferences. I believe with presidents, doctors would have a press conference like if the president had an injury or something like that. I don't know that they'd regularly do a press conference. Now, I understand, this idea of wanting to get health information about him. I believe both Trump and Biden have not given out that much health information. I've heard journalists saying they would like more from both, but I'm not up to date on what they've given out. I don't remember the reports I read. You can go to the White House and get the current health summary of the president. That is from February. So there is a summary here from February that you can read if you'd like. I'll post it in the chat. You know what I'm going to do at some point during the stream? I'm going to play you some of the White House press briefing from today. So here's an example. This is there's a magazine about science news called Stat, and Stat has it's a well-known magazine it's like a science news magazine. Health and Medicine. It's a health and medicine magazine. Health and medicine news site. Stat. They have an opinion story today that says President Biden needs a full medical evaluation. Voters deserve to know the results. And the author is Lawrence Altman, a clinical professor of medicine at New York University and a columnist for the New York Times and a former reporter. So he has an article that came out in Stat today that says the public needs to be reassured that despite being physically feeble, there isn't something medically wrong with Biden to explain the mental lapses, rambling, mid-sentence stumbles, apparent loss of concentration, open mouth gaping, and flat tactical facial expression that viewers saw during the debate. And this is somebody who's like a medical expert saying this. So my point is just that there are people out there who think there should be more medical information coming out from Biden in the aftermath of this debate. You can agree with it or not agree with it, but that's just an example. Thanks so much, Mandy, for your support. Mandy says, sometimes I feel like saying, I don't care which one of you trashed the room, someone clean it up. America just needs healing. Thanks also to Neil Johnson. Neil is not a Gavin Newsom fan. He thinks we need someone else besides Newsom. Alaska, thanks for your support. Alaska thinks that Gavin Newsom will swoop in. Thank you, Camus, who says Biden is dropping out. He just doesn't know it yet. Thank you, Camus, for your support. Thank you, Walter Beasley, for your support. Now, Walter says I can't vote for him because of how he handled Palestine. But it sounds like, Walter, your vote on this election is not really, sounds like it wasn't swayed by the debate either way. Thank you, Walter, for your support. Also, Loaded Wrench, who thinks Trump should demand a debate every day of Biden. Again, I don't think Trump's going to debate Biden again, but that's my opinion. Thank you also, Man, Bear, Pig, for your support. Who thinks Hillary is going to take the Gerald Ford route to the Oval Office? Wait, so this is interesting. You're saying You're saying that she would be a vice president? Because Ford was vice president before he became president. I don't think Hillary's going to be the vice president. I don't think the Democrats would want to have her as vice president because there would be too many negatives. I think there would be. I think if Biden dropped out, they would want to go with maybe they would have Harris on the ticket, but they might want to go with a fresh ticket. I don't think they would want the negatives of Hillary, put it that way. Whatever you think of Hillary. I'm checking for updates here. This is the story where stuff could really happen at any time in this story. Really, stuff could come out whenever. And we have this ongoing meeting. It's going on right now at the White House between Biden and most of the nation's governors. There's a new story from the Daily Beast I just saw. So Roger Solenberger from the Daily Beast says, in new candid video, I guess they have a clip of the video. In new candid video, Trump states as fact that Biden is quitting the race after debate. I got him out, he says, and calls him an old broken down pile of crap. Trump says he'd prefer to run against Kamala Harris, calls her pathetic. They actually have the video posted. I can't play it. I don't have the rights to it, but they have the video posted. I reposted it on my X account. You go to my X account and find the link there if you want to watch the video. I can't play the video, but he's there. He's in the video. So this is really one of these stories where stuff can happen at any time. Who knows what will happen from minute to minute with this story? Kathy Bees thinks he should do the honorable thing and step aside. Enough already. I gotta say, there's an interesting thing going on. I've been looking at the chat sections of the New York Times and the Washington Post when they post articles about this the last few days. And look, posts can be manipulated, but if you read, you can sort the chat, you can sort the comments on articles in the Times and in any of these big sites. A lot of these big news sites, wherever they lean, you can sort the comments by how many people like the comments. And then, at the big sites, thousands of people or hundreds of people will like the comments. So in theory, you could game the responses so certain comments have likes on them. But is someone going to, it would take a lot of effort for someone to organize some kind of organized, let's click like on certain types of comments in the Washington Post, on Washington Post articles, So anyways, so let me just make my point. My point is, and obviously, the more Democrats, I think, than Republicans read the Post and the Times. But if you read the articles about Biden's, bad performance in the debate and whether he'll get out and stuff, by far, if you sort the comments by most liked by the readership, they're pretty much all comments saying he should get out. Now, it's not a scientific survey of Democrats, but it's not really a mix. It's really every most liked comment for days has been he should get out, Why are the people gaslighting us who run the party? Why are they telling us there's nothing wrong? We wanted to have a competitive primary. They wouldn't let us have a competitive primary. They wouldn't let him run against anybody. So I at least think there's a chance. I'm not going to judge everything from these comment sections. I do think there's a chance that a large portion... Oh, hold on. Somebody's speaking. Somebody's speaking right now. A governor. What's going on?
Working together just to make very, very clear on that. A path to victory in November is the #1 priority, and that's the #1 priority of the president. So that's what we're trying to get done. The feedback was good. The conversation was honest and open, and the actions that will come out of that will make sure that we're getting that message out. With that, Governor Moore.
Thank you so much. It was a great conversation with the president and the vice president because it was honest. It was candid. I think that we always believe that when you love someone, you tell them the truth. And I think we came in and we were honest about the feedback that we were getting. We were honest about the concerns that we were hearing from people. And we were also honest about the fact that as the president continued to tell us and show us that he was all in, that we said that we would stand with him. Because as Governor Walz said, the president has always had our backs. We're going to have his back as well. Because the results that we've been able to see under this administration have been undeniable in all of our individual states. But the thing that makes us most optimistic and most hopeful is not necessarily that we're afraid of an alternative, but also is that we're hopeful for the future. And so we know we have work to do. We know that as we're standing right here, we're behind. But we also know that that path to be able to make sure that we can pull ahead in November is real, and it's going to take all of us in order to make it happen and to make it work. And we're grateful to hear the level of excitement and the focus that the president and the vice president have about being victorious in November. And with that, I'll turn it over to Governor Hochul.
Thank you. Representing states like New York and all across America, we came together tonight to listen to President Biden tell us in his own words what his plans were. I'm here to tell you today, President Joe Biden is in it to win it. And all of us said we pledged our support to him because the stakes could not be higher. On the eve of the 4th of July celebration, we talk about how we transition under a monarchy and a tyranny that our founding fathers fought against, that we risk right now descending back into that very same place. We will stand with the president as we fight that force being Donald Trump. And together, we'll make sure that Americans know not just what Joe Biden did for all of us, and the list of what he did for my state of New York is extraordinarily long, but where he's going for the future and where he's going to take this country. We feel very confident in his abilities. We talked about the plan and how he's going to be very focused on issues that matter to Americans, and I felt very confident coming out of this meeting as well.
Is he fit for office? Do you think he's fit for office?
Yes, fit for office. The president has 3.5 years of delivering for us, going through what we've all been through. None of us are denying. Thursday night was a bad performance. It was a bad hit, if you will, on that. But it doesn't impact what I believe. He's delivering.
What would you say to people in your own party? What would you say to people in your own party who say the game is up, enough's enough?
No, I would say this. In November, we've got a clear choice. The president was very clear that he is in this to win this. And the president is our nominee. The president is our party leader. And the president has told us, and he was very clear back there, that he is in this to win this. And so for people, I would say, and listen, we're governors. We don't do hand-wringing. That's not what we do. Governors work and get things done. Governors say, tell me the objective, and we're going to make sure that we accomplish the objective. And so for people who are concerned, I just want to be very clear on something. And come November, we've got a binary choice. And the binary choice is between someone who has continually delivered for us and our states and the people of our states, and frankly, someone whose vision for the future of this country is downright dangerous. And so I would tell people it is time to mount up. And it is time to get serious and understand what's at stake.
Governor Moore, you said What did you ask President Biden to do to regain the confidence of voters? How did the president explain his debate performance to you on Thursday night? And does he understand the stakes? Did he speak about
Yeah, he did. He said, look, he didn't listen to himself. And I thought he gave a great example. And when he said, look, I'm worrying about numbers on this. It's about people. It's about their lives. This is Joe from Scranton. He talks about building the middle class. He did it. He delivered. And I think this idea that you get in your own head, you get a little bit cycled up on that. What we saw in there today was a guy who was the guy that all of us believed in the first time who could beat Donald Donald Trump and did beat Donald Trump. And with that, we thank you. So thanks all.
Why didn't we hear he's in it to win it until
another bad night?
We heard from both of you. We didn't hear he's in it to win it until Kathy Hochul spoke. Why? Is this still a moving target?
All right. So there. So look, first of all, I would not conclude from that from that brief press appearance that, oh, he's definitely staying in the race and he'll never get out of the race, right? So that is 3 governors of the 20 whatever that met with him, and they came out there, and they it seemed to be that the news catchphrase is "in it to win it." There was a lot of "in it to win it," but I mean, for now, those governors are supporting him. Those governors. I mean, Wes Moore from Maryland was there. I think Wes Moore already said publicly that he wouldn't even take the nomination if Biden pulled out. Didn't he say that? I'm not sure about that. Yes, CBS News says Wes Moore says, "I will not seek 2024 Democratic nomination," and says Biden isn't dropping out. That was a few days ago. So anyways, look, I mean, that is several governors, 3 governors saying like that they're strongly supporting him. You know, are they all going to stay supportive of him? I don't know. Do all the governors feel that way? I don't know. But I do think that, I was saying this before we got to that, but the point I was making is I do think there's a chance that a lot of the Democratic base is angry at that kind of stuff. And they feel like they're having this forced on them, and they feel like having no primary was, not having a competitive primary was forced on them as well. I think it could be a bunch, but I don't know. I'm not in touch with all the tens of millions of Democratic voters all the time, so I can't tell you. But those 3 governors, Tim Walz, Kathy Hochul, and Wes Moore, were standing by Biden. In it to win it. In it to win it. A lot of in it to win it. Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota. Let me see if I see any other reporting from that governor's meeting, which is over now. Oh. I actually can play you what... I missed the beginning of that. Do you guys want to watch the first part of that? Let's watch the first part of that. How does that sound? Because I missed when Tim Walz spoke, the governor of Maryland. So I think we missed like a minute of it. I'm going to replay it here. Here we go. Oh, can I play this here? No, I can't. I can't. I can, but I'd have to download it. So it might take a minute to get to it. I'm not going to do it right now. Maybe I'll do it in a minute. A few minutes when I can download it. Our viewer Norman Zolkos says, "I think Biden definitely steps down. Currently, the betting site predicted has Harris as the famous to be the Democratic nominee. I think you see more Biden-Harris commercials, and they announce it after the Republican convention to take the bump away from Trump. And honestly, I think Harris may win. Who will be her VP is the question." Thank you, Norman Zolkos, for writing in and sharing your views. Will Chris X messaged me and said the AFL-CIO president released a statement backing the Biden-Harris ticket. who said, this is according to Rebecca Rainey. Well, she is with Bloomberg Law. So this is like the leader of the AFL-CIO. Oh, sorry, I was going to show you this. Oops, you can't see what I'm looking at. Why? Oh, now you can. Yeah, so look, I mean, you know, when I see what I can't tell, when I see, honestly, I mean, when I see like these, you know, big important people coming out and saying they support Biden-Harris, do they all really support Biden? Or do they just feel that politically they can't come out and say they're not supporting Biden? Would the AFL-CIO head, huge union, think, wow, if I came out and didn't support Biden, that could be really bad for the AFL-CIO union? So I don't know. I don't know what to say, you know? And same with those governors. Do Wes Moore and Tim Walsh and Kathy Hochul in their hearts all feel that Biden is the best candidate to beat Donald Trump? Maybe they do. I don't know. But I do think there's political pressure on these prominent Democrats to not go against Biden. So I don't know when these people come out and they say, you know, everything is great and everything. Maybe they really mean it, but maybe they don't. Maybe they don't think that. It's hard for me to tell. I mean, as I said, there's a bunch of reporting out there that says a lot more prominent Democrats than have said so want him to not run, but they don't want to say it openly yet. So I can't speak to any of the particular people, what they really think. Hey, thanks Mary Arnold for your support. Thank you R.S. Pat for your support. Thanks Rootseller for your support. Rootseller thinks a centrist like Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is the only chance for the Democrats. Thanks Street Logic for your support. Thanks Titanic for your support. Titanic says Biden never comes out and takes questions. I don't understand how people can convince themselves any of this is normal. A fit president doesn't hide. Look, my thought on the matter, thank you Titanic. My thought on the matter, which I told some people, was that after the debate, if he wants to stay in the race, the thing he needs to do is he should immediately start doing town halls and press conferences and interviews where he answers whatever questions people ask of him and he's not told of the questions in advance. As far as I'm aware, he hasn't scheduled any of that yet. Because that's similar to a debate. When you're on the spot, you don't have the questions in the advance, and I think that's what would convince a lot of people. I don't see any of that happening yet. I think that's kind of what Titanic is saying too. I would think that's what you'd want to do. Thanks to Janet Burnett for the gift memberships. Thank you so much to Crazy Yoda. Crazy Yoda says, why isn't Biden in front of a camera with these governors telling us these things? Bad move. Look, I've seen some complaints from people saying they want Biden to be out there more. Biden could go out there every day and answer an hour worth of questions. If he wanted to. I mean, it's up to him. Joe says, I don't understand how much this was such a surprise. Everyone knew he was losing it, and now it's a massive scramble. Thank you, Joe, for your support. And Dodger Blue, 79 and 408 GameStar. Do I think this debate performance helped RFK? Realistically, there's no sign that RFK Jr. has anywhere near enough support to win the presidency. So no. In the sense of, do you mean help him win the presidency? No. Does it help him get like 1% more in some world? I haven't really thought about it, maybe, but it's not a realistic scenario for him to become president at this point. Thanks, Kelly Smith, for your support. Thank you to our member, Cruella. And thanks to all of our moderators who are here. Danny James and Sarah 55. Thank you. Cynthia Moon. We really should watch, a little of the press briefing from today. Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X. Over there on Twitch, Big Ball of Yarn, I Got That Fire, Sarah and Papa Bear moderating. And Kay Lowry Body moderating. Thanks, Kay. Our viewer, Eve Richards, and our subscriber says, how about a full medical and release it? Now, there is a full medical report from February. But it sounds like Eve wants something new. I understand her concern. I just saw something. Matt Smith from WISN 12 News said that Wisconsin Democratic Governor Tony Evers is the only Democratic governor to not meet with President Biden tonight. His office has not said why. So every other every Democratic governor met with Biden tonight, either in person or virtually at that meeting, except for the Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers. Thanks also to Christy for your support. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Gabriel Morrow. Gabriel thinks Michelle Obama would be a great candidate. I don't know that she has any interest in running. I haven't heard her say that. Thank you, Gabriel, for your support. Thank you also, Rain Wrapped, with your support. Does Biden have the interview with ABC coming up? Yeah, there's some interview. It's not a live interview. He's doing an interview with George Stephanopoulos. I think it airs this weekend sometime. But it's not a live interview. So I don't know what it'll be like, but I know it's not a live interview. Fox News has an article that says ABC News is so far remaining quiet on whether it will commit to releasing the full raw version of President Biden's sit-down on Friday with Stephanopoulos. Yeah, it's a taped interview. It is unclear how much time has been allotted for the interview, says Fox News. Oh, I did want to mention something else I saw today, which was this. So in the Wall Street Journal poll that came out today, in which Trump now has a 6-point lead over Biden, whereas in February he had a 2-point lead over Biden, and this was a post-debate poll. That started interviewing voters 2 days after the debate last week. So one thing I thought was interesting is they said, Wall Street Journal said, Democrats showed significant discontent with Biden as their nominee. Some 76% of Democrats that they talked to say he is too old to run this year, or about the same share as Republicans who hold that view. 2/3 of Democrats would replace Biden on the ballot with another nominee. Again, I'm not sure of this. I do think there's a significant chance that a lot of the regular Democratic voters, the Democratic base, wants Biden to step down, and the Democratic party leader people don't want him to step down. And there's this break between the leadership of the party and the base. I'm not sure of that. When you see something like that, that suggests that as well. Thanks, Kate89, who met Governor Walz at the dog park once in Minnesota. Thanks, Kate, for your support. Liz G thinks the party is out of touch. Sharita says Michelle doesn't like politics, nor does she want to run. She has stated that many times. Sark says, I'm riding with Biden. Kristen McConnell Gates says, I heard on Fox that the interview will be 15 minutes, but I'm not sure how true that is. That ABC interview. Again, it's not live. Timber is watching from Ottawa, Canada with popcorn. Alexa Bailey says, polls I've seen show Harris is like less than Biden. Harris will not be the nominee. I mean, so like I saw one poll recently where Harris, I think, was doing better than Biden. But I don't know. I haven't looked at all the polls. Also, let me say this with the polls. So I wouldn't put that much stock in polls of people running against Trump who are possible Democratic candidates, because a lot of Americans are, even Kamala Harris. I mean, people who don't sit around and follow politics all the time probably haven't heard Kamala Harris even speak that much. So I do think if Biden did step aside and you had several months of, at least a couple of months of Democratic candidates, doing maybe a series of debates in town halls and interviews, then I think Americans might will definitely form different opinions of these people. So I don't, it'd be one thing if somebody was polling at like 10%. The polls I've seen don't show like Kamala Harris polling at 10% while all the other Democratic candidates are like 50%. So I just think, to me, we don't know how Americans will think about a lot of these people. I mean, I certainly think a lot of Republicans don't like Kamala Harris, but at the same time, I mean, how much have we really seen of her? So, maybe people would think different of her, plus or minus, if they saw more of her. So I don't have strong thoughts on who Americans would like among these people, because they haven't been out there. Look, a lot of Americans thought that Ron DeSantis would do really well in the Republican primary, and he didn't. A lot of Americans thought Elizabeth Warren would do well in the primaries. I thought she would, and she didn't do that well. So you can't really tell how someone's going to do until they get that exposure. Our viewer, the student handicap, says, I'm from the UK. I'm watching this, and I'm so glad I can vote for a sane person tomorrow. Niwa says, primary election, millions of people voted. That doesn't mean blank anymore. Someone able to drop out and be replaced after the people done be heard, voted and no one vetted him. A couple things. First of all, the idea that millions of people voted. Just to be clear, there was not a competitive Democratic primary. So Democratic voters were not presented with like a slate of competitive candidates that they could choose from. And there's a number of Democratic voters who are unhappy about that, who wanted to have a more competitive primary, just to be clear. So yeah, Biden got most of the primary votes, but it wasn't, there were all these prominent Democrats who didn't run against him. And from I haven't gone back and researched this, but from my understanding, that's basically how the party wanted it. They thought that they didn't want to have They thought it was important to have a unified front going into another election coming up, especially with Trump. Anyways, assuming they knew Trump was going to be the candidate at the time. But regardless, they didn't have a competitive primary. Also, this idea that you can just replace someone. Well, so just to be clear, I don't think there would be this movement to replace Biden if the debate hadn't happened. I think for a lot of Democrats, they feel like it's not like a health issue or an incapacity issue. It's not that they're just like, oh, we voted for him and then we changed our minds about him. I think a lot of Democrats looked at that debate and say, wow, I didn't realize it was like this now. So I don't think for a lot of Democrats it's just a case of, oh, I changed my mind about him. There's nothing different about him. I just changed my mind. Thank you for your comment, Nua. Dan Mullen says, if Biden announces he's dropping out, would Kamala Harris not take up the nomination automatically? She's vice president? No, that's not the way it works. The short answer is no. I believe the Democratic National Committee would have to vote on who gets to be the new nominee. But the Democratic Party would basically have to figure it out. They'd also have to do it in a way that the Democratic base is satisfied with it, whatever they do. So, for example, CNN says if the leading candidate were to drop out of the campaign after most primaries or during the convention, individual delegates would need to select the party's nominee on the convention floor. And the Wall Street Journal says all of the Biden delegates preparing to go to the Democratic National Convention would become uncommitted delegates, and they would have to vote on who they want as the nominee. But Harris doesn't automatically become the nominee. Fifty Shades of Mahomes says, hypothetically, if Democrats replace Biden, does that take away the democracy talking points aimed at Trump? Wouldn't Republicans be able to make a talking point about how Democrats did what they are accusing Trump of and use delegates to choose instead of voters? So I'm a little confused. I think what Democrats accuse Trump of is trying to steal the election by claiming it was fraudulent without any evidence of it, and to try to put forth claims of fraud that are not supported by evidence, and by, that kind of thing. So they're not accusing Trump of not letting the delegates vote, I don't think. It's a little confusing. So, I think it's different situations. Are you saying, would Republicans say that I guess maybe you're saying something like, could Republicans say, oh, Democrats aren't for democracy because they're replacing the primary nominee? Well, but I think what Democrats would say is, well, it's not that everybody voted for this person and then the head of the Democratic leadership said, we don't care who you voted for, we're going to replace him with somebody else. I think there's clear polling information and other information which suggests large numbers. For example, there's polls that say the large majority of Democrats would prefer somebody else. Also, remember, it's not done in a vacuum. The point is he had this debate, and large numbers of Democrats feel like, wow, this is some sort of, health issue or mental health issue or cognitive health issue. And this is not the person I originally voted for, right? So I don't, whatever you, I guess my point is I don't really see a strong parallel between those two cases. That's my response to you. If Biden steps down due to pressure from other Democrats, I don't think it's the case that, like, wow, a few people in the party forced the choice of the vast majority of the party that they were dying to have run to step down. That's not what it's going to be like. Thank you, 50 Shades of Mahobes, writing in. I really appreciate it. Thanks also to Mina Salon for your support. How does someone new qualify for state ballots? Candidate deadlines have passed, right? Look, I don't want to get into that right now, but my guess is there's a way to figure it out. I have not heard reporting suggesting that that's a problem. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to avoid some of these technical issues. It's interesting. I don't want to get wrapped up in all the technical issues because we could be sitting here talking about technical issues for hours and hours and hours. And unless it's going to be something where they actually can't do it, and I haven't heard reporting to that extent, then I'm not really particularly I'm not concerned about it at this point. So it's an interesting point, but I don't want to get wrapped up on it. So I appreciate the question, but I hope you understand that I don't want to go down that road. Hey, thanks to Amina Salon. I really appreciate your support. Thanks, Mina. That's like a different stream. Thanks to Tisha F. and Gabriel Morrow as well. Gabriel says so far Biden is saying he's staying. He said it today. They sent out a fundraising email today. Thanks also Tisha F. for your support. Says Biden should enjoy his sunset years. I mean, look, if you're Biden, I'm sure it's horrible to have to think that people are pressuring you to step down. It's not an enviable situation. Yes, here's the fundraising email. Kenneth Vogel posted this. Joe Biden fundraising email from today. I'm the Democratic Party's nominee. No one is pushing me out. I'm not leaving. I'm in this race to the end, and we are going to win the election. Stacey thinks he should have done it on his own earlier. Ponyboy says, have the large number of Democrats had the chance to vet an option, or will one just be chosen? So, in theory, if Biden were to step down, say Biden this week said he would step down, in theory, what would happen is something like you have, I mean, until the actual date of the Democratic convention is August 19th. So you have a good 6 weeks before the convention, and I don't know. Look, for all I know, they could they delay the convention a week or something? I know that sounds crazy, but my point is, you would just basically figure out some kind of thing where you'd have a few debates, you'd have some town halls, you would basically have a bunch of people run and just get out there and have this really concentrated, like meet the candidates, organized thing that goes on for like 6 weeks with debates. I'm sure they would go on and be interviewed on various news channels all the time. So you would just have a way of just trying to get them out there as much as possible and exposed to people. That's what they'd have to do. Obviously not that much time, but I mean, there's a bunch that could be done in a month and a half, 2 months. Thanks to Trell Y Jersey for your support. Who said Clyburn said he would support a mini primary. I didn't hear him say that. I mean, he's still supporting Biden stay in the race. Maybe he did say something like that. But there's not going to be a nationwide primary. I believe that the Democratic Party rules are that the delegates who've been voted on, Biden, if he steps down, his delegates would become uncommitted delegates, and then it would just be up to the delegates to vote. That's my understanding. Maybe by mini primary he meant the delegates voting. I don't know. I mean, the delegates would vote anyway. But everything I've read says that's what would happen. Richard P. says, sounds like most likely thing that would happen would be a brokered convention if he drops out. Do we... Well, I bet by brokered convention, you just mean the delegates decide. I mean, that's what would have to happen. The delegates would have to decide. Could you cover what happened at previous conventions? I honestly don't know enough about it. I mean, when was the last time a candidate got chosen at a convention? Thank you, Richard P., by the way. I appreciate it. The last time a candidate got chosen at a convention... I have to go back and look. There was 1968 it happened, Democratic National Convention. Is that the last time? I don't know. Anyways, I don't think it's ever happened since I've been alive. Weston says 1968. Oh, well, technically, Ballotpedia says a brokered convention occurs when a party's nominee is not selected by a majority in the first round of delegate voting at the nominating convention. Additional votes are taken. The term brokered convention is sometimes used interchangeably with contested convention. A contested convention is one that opens without one candidate having captured a majority of delegates. So I think you're talking about a contested convention. Why can't I find a list of contested conventions? You'd think I'd be able to just find a list of one. I can't find a list of one. I don't want to hang up on this, but again, there's brokered and then there's contested. All right, what I want to do why can't I just type in when was the most recent contested convention and get an answer? Can I do it on like GPT on something? Or something that's infuriating. In this day and age, I can't type that into Google and get an answer? I mean, come on. Ridiculous. See, I'm seeing this answer that says 1950. ChatGPT says 1952. But again, I think, is that really the last one, or was that the last brokered convention? Oh, yeah. So in 1968, LBG said he would not seek a re-election, thus making the purpose of the convention to select a new presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. 1968. Said some of you, including Weston, said. 1968. I think that was the last one. I'm not sure. Anyways, I don't want to get hung up on that. Thank you, Richard P., for bringing it up. Hey, here's what I want to do. I want to take a look at a little of the White House press briefing today because a bunch of questions were asked about this. So I want to let you see that. Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. Let me pull this up here. I'm going to pull this up here so I can show it to you. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but let's take a look at some of it. This is from today. Because I know a bunch of questions were asked about this. Okay, good. Here's this. Here's this. Oopsie. Earlier today, there. Thanks to Ken Wong, by the way. Ken Wong thinks the process by which they would be picking a new candidate is not exactly democratic. You know, look, it's just, the problem is if Biden pulls out, you have to deal with the fact that there's just not the time and the resources in place to do a whole other primary election in various states. So there's the idealized version of what you might want and the practical version of what you can have. But my guess is that it's just not practical and realistic to expect them to do these elections in every state. I don't even know how that works, but I think you can understand the idea that that could be. There are situations in which that would be impractical, and so you'd have to do the best you could with the time you had. That'd be I'm not an expert on why it would be impractical, but my guess is that there are significant reasons which would not make it practical. Thank you, Ken Wong and Cruella, for your support. Hey, let's watch a little of this today, and from today, and I think maybe they get into the questions right away, but if they don't, I'll forward it. I'm not going to just play the whole thing. I just want you to see the parts where they're asking about this topic. Okay? Oops. I'm going to forward it until she's taking questions.
Systems, ammunition for high mobility artillery, rocket systems, and its cities against advances. Thanks, Ukraine, until they've been aired on WUR. I am happy to take your questions on men.
Thank you. Last night at the fundraiser, the president blamed jet lag for his debate performance, but he was back stateside for well over a week. So does he really need more than a week and a half to recover from traveling in Europe, and is that really what he thinks caused his poor performance?
So, yeah, just a couple of things, and I do appreciate the question because the president has certainly spoken to this many times about the debate, and so he had an opportunity to do that in front of supporters, and as you just stated, he did that. He owned that the debate was not his best night, and he said himself, it's not an excuse, but it's an explanation. I was standing here yesterday, and many people were asking why and what's the explanation. And that's what you heard from him. Look, in addition to the two major trips, he was also continued to do his presidential duties. He worked late in doing that, and he also prepared for the debate. And on top of that, there was obviously the jet lag, as you just asked about, and also he had a cold. And you all heard directly, you heard from him during the debate. He had a hoarse voice. Many of you reached out to me and my team and some other members of the White House asking what was going on. We confirmed that he had a cold. And so I think those two things, continuing obviously to do his duties as commander-in-chief, as the president. And so I think some of you here in this room can certainly relate to, what could happen when you're having an important moment and you're not feeling well, and also you wish you could have done better. And so he took ownership. I think that's important, and he's going to continue to make a strong case for his agenda, and that's what you're going to see. And he was given an explanation, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to get that out there and for people to hear directly from him, as he has been doing since Friday of last week.
All right, so real quick, I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't intend to interrupt. But first of all, I want to mention real quick, not on this, Al Bowe sent me something which said that in 1976 there was a convention where for Republicans they had to figure out at the convention who was the nominee. I have to confirm that, so I'll look that up after. But more important, so thank you, Al. But for this right now, so I was mentioning before that I do think there is this disconnect between the Democratic base and the people who run the Democratic Party. And I think this is a great example of this. Because look, I mean, I don't think what I'm going to say is that insightful. But if you watch that debate and you saw how he performed during the debate, there is nobody acts that way because they have a cold. Like what she just said, you listen to that, I think if you're a reasonable person and you're like, am I on planet crazy? It's so ridiculous. It's the height of ridiculousn's to somehow bring up, to claim that you act like that if you flew a lot and you had a cold. I hate even making this point because it's so obvious. I'm not being insightful here. I'm not saying anything insightful. It's so obvious. But it's just like insulting. And this is the kind of thing I hear a lot of complaints from like Democratic regular people about when I read comments online and stuff. They feel like they're being gaslit. Gaslighting is when somebody tells you something is true when it's obviously not true. Somebody says you're wrong and I'm right, and they're obviously not right and you obviously are right, but they act like it's obvious that you're wrong. That's gaslighting. And like, this is a perfect example about that. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And look, if you watched me when I would cover Trump press briefings and somebody would say something crazy, I would get really upset. Because I'd be like, that's crazy talk. And it's not true. Equivalently, this is crazy talk. So I didn't mean to jump in, but it's like, how can somebody get up there and say such a thing? It's so ridiculous. And just because somebody's saying it on a White House stage doesn't make it less ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No one acts that way because they had a cold. She literally said a big factor in him acting that way. I mean, if you haven't watched the debate, like he couldn't form coherent sentences a lot of time. No one does that because they have a cold. It's ridiculous. So this is this kind of, it's very weird. And my experience with her and others in these press briefings, they're not going out there every day and saying this stuff like this. This is not my experience with this administration. There might be things I disagree with, but this is this level of just, what is she talking about? So, I mean, and look, this is her job, so I'm sure she's told to say this. She's the press secretary for the United States. But this is the official line that's being put out. And I think stuff like this is why there's a lot of Democrats who are really angry. But it's crazy. It's crazy talk. It's crazy for me to hear someone say this. It's just crazy. So it's shocking to me to hear this, that they actually put out this line. Anyways, so it's very weird. And look, the question that she was asked by the reporter had to do with Biden a few days ago at a fundraiser. He said that the reason he acted like that at the debate is because like he had this really bad travel schedule. But he actually got back, I think, more than a week, at least a week before the travel, he was already back home. At least a week before the debate, he was already back home. But again, yeah, you can travel a lot and get really tired. To me, you don't act like he acted in the debate because you traveled a lot. It's just ridiculous. So I do find it like insulting. I feel insulted as an American that this is what I'm told. It's ridiculous. It's really insulting to have this forced on you. So I don't care who it is, whether it's a Democratic or Republican, whether it's a Democrat or Republican or whatever. When somebody gets up there and they say stuff that's just clearly nonsense, and you're being told to believe it, it's just an insult. But it's crazy talk. That is crazy talk. A cold? You act like that when you have a cold? I mean, come on. It's absolute nonsense. And by the way, I'm sure the reporters sitting there are thinking the same thing when she says this. For all I know, the follow-up, I didn't see this briefing today. We were covering the hurricane. For all I know, there's a follow-up question about her saying that. Anyways, sorry, I just wanted to vent for a second.
I know you're calling it an explanation, not an excuse, but it does seem like there are new excuses since the debate of what went wrong there.
I would say I don't think it's a new excuse. I think some of your colleagues reached out to us about the schedule. Some of your colleagues asked if the schedule was too strenuous or was it because of the jet lag, and so we are laying out and explaining exactly what happened. You heard from the president, you've heard from me, and it was indeed a schedule where the president traveled 6 time zones forward to G7 in Italy, 9 time zones back to LA, and 3 time zones forward again to DC. That's something that one of the print pooler on that day laid out for all of you and those who read the pool notes. And on top of that, he did have a cold. So it is an explanation. I don't think it is an addition. I don't think we certainly don't want to explain this away. But you all asked me for an explanation yesterday. The president gave that directly yesterday to his supporters. He wanted to make sure, knowing that all of you would get that information as he's speaking to his supporters last night. Sure.
You mentioned all the calls that he has made in your topper. Why wasn't he doing that on Friday? And why wasn't he doing this sort of damage control? Why was he waiting to do that until middle of this week?
I mean, look, I was asked a similar question by one of your colleagues yesterday. And look, the president obviously right after the debate, he visited 4 states in 2.5 days, gave a couple of remarks. He met with supporters, whether at the Waffle House or in Atlanta at a watch party, or in North Carolina where there were hundreds of supporters there in Raleigh. And so he was busy dealing with his schedule, and also speaking directly and engaging with his supporters, and then spend time with his family. I think what's important is that he has done this outreach. He's having these conversations. It is important to him to do so. And the folks that I laid out that he spoke to or some of them have been his colleagues. Some of them have been elected officials that he's known for some time. Obviously, Leader Jeffries is a new relationship that he has, someone that he obviously respects, and so you know, it is, I think it's important to note that they were strong conversations. That's something that the president told me and my team directly moments ago. He was walking around and we happened to see the president, and he said they were strong conversation. And by the way, he looks great. The vice president's great, and they are ready to continue working on behalf of the American people. Okay, so.
Thank you, Corinne. Hi. Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not. And you heard, I believe, directly from the campaign as well.
Given the groundswell of concern from fellow Democrats, from donors, from supporters, doesn't he owe it to the American public to reflect on whether he should step down?
I mean, look, very much into Sung Min's question and my answer to her question, where he had an opportunity to talk to supporters. He's done it a couple times at this point and laid out what happened on that night. Talked about how he understands, and it was not his best night. He understands that it is fair for people to ask that question. But we cannot forget his record and what he's been able to do. We cannot forget how he has been able to deliver for the American people for almost 4 years. That matters too. And he has the most historic record administration, the most in modern politics, and that should matter. And he wants to continue to do that work. And you know, a lot of what's on his agenda is very much popular with majority of the American people, whether it's continuing to build a strong economic policies. He's done that. Creating new jobs, he's done that. 15 million jobs. He wants to work on that and continue to do that. And so he wants to continue to deliver, expanding healthcare. All of these things he believes is important. Majority of Americans believe it's important. And his record, he wants to make sure that people do not forget about the record that he's been able to lay on behalf of the American people.
Is there anything, Corinne, that would change his mind?
Look, I cannot lay out something that would change the president's mind. He has been very clear, and he's going to continue to build on the unprecedented record that he's been able to lay out for the American people. That's his focus right now.
Thank you.
Catch up.
Thank you, Corinne. What does the president do outside the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.?
Well, you heard him speak to supporters yesterday outside of 4 p.m. You saw the president land in North Carolina in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock. What was he doing? He was greeting supporters, hundreds of supporters that showed up to cheer him on after the debate. You saw him speaking at 9 o'clock or at night in New York in front of supporters. So he's been pretty much out there after the hours of 4 p.m. and before 10 a.m. for sure. And so that has been something he has consistently done over the past couple of days for sure, for certain.
Have an afternoon nap every day.
Let me be very clear about this. This is a president that wakes up every morning and puts the American people first. That's what he does. He does that every single day. That is his focus. I am not going to speak to sources out there, unnamed sources out there. That's not what I'm going to speak to. I'm going to speak to what I know, what this president does, and how he is committed to the work of the president, of the commander-in-chief. And his record clearly lays that out and speaks to it. And that's what he's going to continue to do. The American people first, and delivering for them.
Can you also clarify Sungmin's question?
Sure.
I mean, how is it that the president was still tired 12 days after returning from Europe, had a cold, but then went to the Waffle House, and then the following day staged such a huge comeback that he gave those North Carolina remarks? Like, help us understand.
Have you had a cold before?
Of course I've had a cold before.
So you probably, well, come on, Jackie. Let's be very, let's be.
12 days after he returned, though.
But
and
you
he
also
jet lag yesterday.
Hold on a second. There's a cold, there's a jet lag. You combine that. He continues to work for the American people, day in and day out, around the clock. Things happen. And the cold thing is something that you all pointed out during his debate. We didn't even point that out. You all pointed out when you heard his voice being hoarse, because he knew he had to push through. He knew he has to power through. That's what presidents do. If you care about this country and you don't care about yourself, you care about the American people, you care about delivering for this country, you care about how you're going to continue to work every day in and day out, you push through. We've all do that.
Because all these Democrats
We've
who are
all
saying
do
they want
that.
to see him,
But
it speaks to that.
But we didn't share that information ahead of time. You all asked what was going on, and then we shared that information. We didn't use that before the debate. You all asked, hey, is he under the weather? And we confirmed that he was under the weather. He pushed through. That's what this president does. He is going to continue to fight for the American people. So he pushed through it. I think anybody who does that, not just the president, should be commended. And he also said, you heard him say this on Friday, when you get knocked down, you get back up. That's what you saw.
Is there any discussion that if the president were to suspend his campaign, that he would also resign? Are there any discussions about the vice president assuming his duties?
Absolutely not. Go ahead, Kelly.
Does the president have a duty to review data, like polling information that's coming in, donor information, the fears and concerns or anxieties expressed by Democrats? Does he have a duty to review what's happening now?
When you say a duty, can you say more about the duty piece?
He's absolutely running.
Yeah. Well, he's saying that, and I'm sharing with you his view.
And we would invite the president to come here and tell us that directly.
Noted, Kelly.
But
he's awake.
That's inappropriate.
As you heard from your colleague, the president of the WHCA, that's inappropriate. Thank you, Kelly.
My question is, information is coming in, an assessment is happening within the party. Does he have a duty to review that? Has he closed the door on reviewing the data?
So I'm going to be really mindful, because obviously you're asking me about campaign numbers and data that's coming in. And look, what I will note is that this is a president that looks at everything, takes in all the information. It's important to him to do so. I don't want to get into hypotheticals here. That's not what I'm here to do. What I can say is, in this moment, we move forward on building on this unprecedented record that the president has been able to lay out for the American people, and that's going to be our focus. I don't want to get into hypotheticals. I don't want to get ahead into anything else.
Like closing the door to reviewing this over a period of time.
What I can say is the president is moving forward. He's moving forward as being president. He's moving forward with his campaign, as his campaign has been very, very clear about that. That's what I can speak to, and that's what I can say, and that is the president's focus. The president's focus is how does he continue to do that work, and anything else that we're hearing or that's being reported is absolutely false.
Is the president telling people he's evaluating the race?
False. That is absolutely false. I saw that reporting. We were not given enough time to get back to that reporting, just a couple of minutes, and we asked the president. The president responded directly when asked about this question because we said that we would, and the president said it is absolutely false. That's coming directly from him.
What steps would the president be taking, or would you as a team plan, to try to prevent another episode in public that would be deemed worrisome?
I would not call it an episode. I would call it, we had a bad night, right? It was not his best night. He had a cold, he was jet lagged. You heard directly from the president about this. And when we get knocked down, when he gets knocked down, he gets right back up. And that's what I would focus on. The president continuing to be very steady and continuing to work for the American people.
But just to follow up on Kelly's question, do you think the president feels like these coming days are very critical for him, as you laid out all these events that he's going to be doing?
Yeah.
Are these events very important for him to show to the American people that he still has the ability to be the nominee?
I would say that this moment is critical, regardless of the debate or not. We are living in an important moment right now. Everything is at stake. And I got to be mindful, because this is all connected to what's happening in November. And I think any leader would say they always have to prove to themselves to their constituents, right? It is a day in and day out work. Right? And yes, the president's going to have engagement. He's going to be out there speaking to the American people. Obviously, we mentioned Wisconsin. He's going to do an interview in Wisconsin as well. We talked about Pennsylvania. But the president was also out last week. Atlanta, North Carolina, New York, where he saw supporters. This is a president that has been consistently out there talking directly to the American people. He understands, as you all asked me about the economy and what people are feeling, he understands that they have to hear directly from him, and he has to continue to do that so that he can lay out his agenda. He can lay out what he wants to continue to do. It's always going to be part of the calculation, right? To continue to prove to the American people that he can continue to do the work and deliver for him on behalf of the American people.
And Jeff had the staff meeting today. Can you just give us a rundown of really what he tried to get across? And is there a morale issue in the White House right now?
It's a fair question, and I do have a couple of things I want to say. As you just said, the Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, did have an all-staff call. He wanted to gather the team across the building and acknowledge what the president said himself, right? That the last few days have been challenging. We've been very, very clear in acknowledging that. But we have had an extraordinary record to be proud of, and we know we have more work to do. The president says that all the time. He conveyed the importance of executing on our mission. He talked about the importance.
All right, guys, so I just wanted to give you, there's more to that briefing, but I just wanted to give you a sampling of the briefing. If you want, you can go to the White House social media and you can watch the rest of the briefing. But as you can see, there were a number of reporters who were asking if he was going to drop out, and that kind of thing. And so, and questioning his excuse, his blaming the performance on the debate on traveling and all that stuff. So again, go watch that if you want. You can watch more of it, but I wanted to bring that to you. I wanted to mention, Albo mentioned to me that Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer, two prominent governors, posted after the governors' meeting tonight, Democratic governors meeting with Biden, and they are on board. Gavin Newsom says, at least for now, he says, he says, what did I do here? There. I heard 3 words from the president tonight. He's all in, and so am I. Biden's had our back. Now it's time to have his. And then Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, she becomes the 3rd governor I have heard to say in it the win it. Because I believe I heard both Wes Moore and Kathy Hochul say in it to win it, unless I'm wrong, after at the White House after the meeting. So Gretchen Whitmer says, Joe Biden is our nominee. He's in it to win it, and I support him. So it sounds like maybe they talked about saying he's in it to win it. Because I feel like I've heard 3 governors say that now. In it to win it. Unless they all independently came up with this idea of saying that. By the way, does Gretchen Whitmer really support him staying in the race? Do Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom really think it's best for the party if he stays in the race? I have no idea. I don't know. I do not know. Oh, also, Brian Stelter posted something. He reports on media stuff. He says, big change to ABC's Biden interview rollout plan. It will air in its entirety as a primetime special Friday, July 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC, Eastern and Pacific. Additionally, a transcript of the unedited interview will be made available on the same day. So, he says ABC was originally planning to air just a clip of the Biden interview on Friday evening, then televise the other parts over the weekend. This is a much better, more transparent plan. Although, see, what I don't understand is, it's still going to be edited, right? Like when they say they're interviewing, so there's the airing it in its entirety, I think means the entire edited interview. But it's interesting that they're releasing a transcript of the unedited interview. But it's not live, it's taped. It's taped. Smoke says, why not just do it live then? Thanks to our members Jackball TV and Tom Witcher. Thanks to Sven Hoke for your support. Thank you, Sven. Thanks to our member Zeppelin. Zeppelin thinks it's frustrating messaging by the White House. Thanks, Sabrina, our member. Now, one of our viewers mentioned that, Pravolution mentioned that a transcript, there might be things happening that he's not saying that you're not seeing in a transcript. So I would be interested to see if they would be interested in releasing the actual, I think Fox News, an article said this is, would they release the unedited footage? But I haven't seen a sign they're going to do that yet. Oh, hold on. I wanted to look up, Al mentioned the 1976 convention, Republican. The 1976 Republican National Convention, the convention nominated Ford for a full term, but only after narrowly defeating a strong challenge from former Governor Ronald Reagan. Going into the convention, Ford had won more primary delegates than Reagan, but did not have a majority. So that was in 1976. That was a convention where the nominee was actually decided at the convention because nobody had a majority of delegates. That's interesting. Josh Z, our viewer, who I know, thinks that the president is literally giving the election to Trump. Is he going to be better as the days go on or worse? I've seen my mom go downhill fast from 81 to 85. It started with moments that we have seen with the president. It's incredibly sad. And if there was another centrist Democrat that was running, I would surely vote for him or her. Look, I understand what Josh is saying. I totally get it. I totally get it. I said this right after the debate. That was going to be a big concern. I mean, if you saw the debate, you know. It's not fun getting old and having people get old and going through what you go through. But now, do I know for a fact it was age that caused what happened on Thursday? No. My guess is that it's likely. But, I mean, that's going to be what a lot of voters think about. Yeah, stress too, as Sherbani says. Very stressful job. But, that's, people will look at that. A lot of people are going to look at that and say, like, I mean, how can I trust that person to run the country? Even if they're better on some days. Flor Morena says, I'm not convinced he's running until election time. The issue isn't over. They'll think of something to get him out. Well, he's the one who he has enough delegates, so he ultimately has to decide to get out. The problem is if he is going to get out of the race, it makes it so much harder for the party to do it later. Look, something else to keep in mind is the polling data. If bad polls keep coming out for Biden, there's just going to be more and more pressure. Remember, the New York Times came out with a poll today, a post-debate poll that had him down 6% to Trump, and that was the lowest he's ever, the biggest gap ever in a New York Times poll between him and Trump. That's what the Times said, at least in this election cycle, but that's what they said, the biggest gap. And Wall Street Journal, which had it as a 2-point lead for Trump in February, now has it as a 6-point lead for Trump, and that was in a post-debate poll. And if there's more of these polls that come out that show him at a significant deficit, every one of those polls that shows him at a significant deficit or shows some state where Democrats should be winning by a lot and have it close, that's going to be additional pressure. There's a world in which the polling gets bad enough, I think, that all these governors who are up there saying he's in it to win it will actually say, well, I think he's got to step down now. So I do think the polling will be a big deal. April Coco says, I would vote for whoever runs against Trump. It is too dangerous if he gets reelected. That's what April says. Carol Alfonso, the rules are at the convention on the first ballot. You have to vote for who you're pledged to. So the Biden delegates have to vote for Biden on the first ballot if he's running, and he'll win because there'll be a majority. Cindy says he has to do a press conference with unscripted questions. I think this thing, though, I think that the thing that gets a lot of people really angry, and that this thing that gives this thing a bad taste, it's one thing if they came out and said, like, look, you know, yes, that was really concerning. You know, once every few weeks, he has something happen like that. Joe Biden can come out and say that. He can just say, look, I've gotten older. Once every few weeks, I'll have something like that happen to me, right? It's not great. It happens. I'll answer your questions now. I'll do a press conference every day. So you can see that generally speaking, I'm doing pretty well. But that's not what they're doing. They come out and they say that it's because he had a cold and he was traveling a lot, even though he got back, what was it? Before a week or more before the debate he got back. But they blame the travel and the fact that he had a cold. And when they do that, then it's just like, it's like they got nothing. They got nothing. They so got nothing that they got to say it's a cold in the travel. It's like, what is that? What is that? That's the best you got. That's the best you got to say. That makes it just seem like you don't even want to answer questions about it. How does that happen? Does Joe Biden tell them he had a cold? Who is telling the press secretary? I don't think she's making it up. So who is telling her that? Does the president telling her that? I mean, somebody's telling her to say that. But it's so crazy. It just seems so dysfunctional that that's the response. Like that just seems like it's something so messed up that is where this has gone. Is that she's coming out here talking about him having a cold. So, you know, it's one thing. It's one thing if they came out and he was like, look, you know, this happens once in a while. I'll do press conferences. And look, maybe he would do that and people still wouldn't be convinced. That's one thing. But when this happens with the press briefing where they're like he had a cold, like that makes me think stuff is really messed up in the White House. Like I think of places I've worked before where stuff was really messed up, like everything was really messed up at the office. That's when it gets to the point where she's coming out and telling America that he had a cold, that makes me think like, oh my God, stuff is really messed up in that place. Because if it weren't really messed up, she wouldn't be coming out and saying he had a cold. There'd be something else to do. There'd be something else that's said. So I don't know what's going on there, but it just seems really, really dysfunctional if that's what they come up with and that's what she's trotted out there to say. That's really weird. So I don't know what's going on over there. But that's really bad. Like that's the best they could do? I mean, they can't think that's a winning, like that's really like a great way to win people over. So how does it end up that she's coming out there with that order to say that? What is the process by which that happened? But it's really messed up. Oh, I forgot. I was going to do a poll. Thanks, Philip Nicholson. Yeah, I was gonna do a poll of the viewers, an unscientific poll. Will he pull out of the race? Thanks. I was. Sorry, I was going to do that and I just forgot. Here, I just started the poll. We'll see what you guys think. It's an interesting question. I honestly don't know. Hey, thanks so much to Philip Nicholson and Angel Mendez. Thank you, Angel, for your support. And Neil Johnson. Very much appreciated. Let's see what you guys say. Well, it's very interesting. On our YouTube audience, it's about 50-50. It's about 50-50 over there on YouTube. Hold on, I'll show you. I'll show you guys this. I'll show you this. Let's take a look at our poll. 50-50. 902 votes and it's 50-50. Guys, you guys are split. Check it out. There's your poll. Will Biden pull out of the race? Wow. Over 1,000 votes, and it's 51-49. Over there on Twitch, it is 64% no, 36% yes on Twitch. So the Twitch voters, more of them think no. Very even over there on YouTube. I'm going to end the poll in a minute, but that's interesting. Over on Twitch, it's 62-38 no. Sharon says, I'd be shocked if he got out. All right. If you're going to vote on YouTube, you have like 30 seconds. I'm going to end the poll. But I'm telling you guys, this is one of these stories that stuff can happen at any time. Stuff could happen at any time with this story. This is an ongoing thing. Something could happen on July 4th. You never know who's going to come out with a statement or something. All right. We're wrapping this up. Hey, thanks for voting over there. Look at all those votes over there on YouTube. Good voter participation. Look at that voter participation on YouTube. On Twitch, too. All right, we just wrapped it up. 1,500 votes. Oops. 1,500 votes. It ended up 51% yes, 48% no on YouTube. Thanks for voting. Over on Twitch, it's 60 no, 40 yes. Ask if he should pull out of the race. One more poll. People love polls. Fine, I'll give the people what they want and we can do a poll. Should he pull out of the race? Why is this not working? It like won't let me do another poll. Oh, it hasn't ended the other poll. The Twitch one hasn't ended yet, so I can't do another one yet. Sorry, Twitch. I have to wait till the current one ends. Over there on YouTube, here is the poll here. on YouTube. It's unscientific. I don't know the political makeup of our viewers, but 81% people say he should pull out of the race. Look, I told you that in the Wall Street Journal poll, they said 75% of Democrats, the same number as Republicans, in the latest Wall Street Journal poll, said, didn't they say, what did they say exactly? The Wall Street Journal said today, 76% of Democrats they talked to said he is too old to run this year, about the same share as Republicans who hold that view. About 2/3 of Democrats would replace Biden on the ballot with another Democrat. Well, we're wrapping this up. But there you go. End poll. I'm ending it now. 80-20. 80-20 over there on YouTube. 80-19. So it's you know, look, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of Democrats, regular Democratic voters who want another candidate. But right now, a lot of the people running the party are kind of just circling the wagons. Not all of them, though. I think there's a risk, too, that if he doesn't pull out, there could be this real break between Democratic base and the party leadership. This is what I see when I go, again, is it a perfect barometer? No. Go the last 4 or 5 days, go to the New York Times or the Washington Post, read the comment sections for the articles on Biden, and go sort them by, you know, like most liked comments, where you get article, you know, people, 2,000 people like a comment, like 900 people like a comment. And it's just every single article about Biden, all of the top comments are just like, you know, he should step down. This leadership is gaslighting us. We wanted a competitive primary. This leadership is like saying things that they know aren't true and that we know aren't true. You know, why don't they wake up? There's so much anger in these comments about the people running the party, not acknowledging the wishes, or, you know, even not at least acknowledging the wishes and the points of the regular people who are the regular Democratic voters. There's a lot of anger out there that I can see. I mean, even the fact, like, just that, like, the governors can come out and say he's in it to win it. You know, it's like this. It's like this. When Governor Whitmer comes out and says, Joe Biden is our nominee. He's in it to win it, and I support him. And, like, I bet a lot of her voters are just like, you know, screw you. Like, don't just tell me that. Like, if you're going to come out and say that, you owe me a better explanation than that. Don't just post that out just because you met with him. Give me some more than that. And by the way, she might, in her private mind, think that he shouldn't be running. I don't know. But it's just that kind of way of talk, that dismissive way, you know. They just had this meeting with Biden, supposedly because they were concerned about the debate, and then she comes out and she writes to everybody this. And it's just like, there's no acknowledgement that people have legitimate concerns. I'm telling you, there's a lot of anger out there, I think. Supergram thinks it's going to come down to the mega donors. If they step back, it's over, period. That's what Supergram thinks. Reed Hastings became the first big Democratic donor tonight to say that Biden should step down, according to the New York Times. He's the co-founder of Netflix. The New York Times said there are more mega donors who think that, but they haven't come out publicly yet. Ronald Dwan says, if any polls come out that show how Kamala would do against Trump. Yeah, look, again, I talked about this earlier. I don't really put a lot of stock into polls about how replacement candidates would do against Trump because they haven't been out there in public that much. And I know she's the vice president, but it'd be different. If Biden pulled out and then for several months, TV was just plastered with a few Democratic candidates and eventually just one who was out there all the time and doing debates and doing tons of interviews. I think there's that people will form different opinions of them. They might like them better, they might like them worse. But I don't really just put a lot of weight into those right now. Those things. I saw one poll yesterday that had a lot of the people kind of similar, a lot of the prospective candidates. But again, I don't feel like people really know these candidates that well. So I'm not really focusing on those kind of numbers. I know there's been some polls floating around. I don't remember off the top of my head what all of them said. I might have one of them handy, but again, I don't want you to read too much into it. Yeah, I mean, there's a CNN post-debate polls. According to Political polls, they posted one from CNN. And again, it's like, I don't know, it says Trump 49, Biden 43, Trump 47, Harris 45, Trump 48, Newsom 43, Trump 47, Buttigieg 43. I mean, these other ones are kind of similar to each other. And again, a lot of people don't know that Whitmer, Buttigieg, Newsom, Harris, Biden. I mean, a lot of people in the country probably don't even know who Newsom and Whitmer are. Even Buttigieg. I mean, a lot of people don't pay attention to the news that much. I mean, if you pay attention to the news a lot, you'll know who Whitmer and Newsom are. But a lot of people aren't going to know who these governors are. I'm not seeing, when I see polls like this, I'm not seeing like one of them at 10% and the others at 40%. Put it that way. Bradley Hyman, Keith Hyman thinks the party leadership don't really care about their voters. He's in it to win it. Another mention of in it to win it, guys. Look, as I mentioned, 3 governors, I believe 3 of the governors I've heard so far, have said he's in it to win it. Stephen Newcomb of Axios reports, Biden told Democratic governors he's in it to win it in 2024, said a source briefed on the meeting. He said he will hit the road and do more unscripted events with voters, per source. Again, it just seems like in it to win it is the new quote. Hang on a moment here. Our viewer, not the real Hunter Biden, thank you. Yeah, I talked about that. I talked about and posted about that Daily Beast story about a Trump video where he talks about Biden earlier. Spoke about it earlier. It's on my X account, @Lookner. Thanks Hunter Biden, our viewer, for your support. And Red Squirrel 82, thank you. Also, just me. No, I'm not going to do a voting poll, just me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, just me. We're not doing a voting poll for candidates, for who you prefer. It's a little too political for my taste. Thank you, though, just me. I appreciate it. Hey, you got 2 polls. Matt Groff says we didn't even get a Democratic primary in Florida. Is that true? I don't even know. I mean, it wasn't a competitive primary. You mean before the race was decided? I don't even remember, Matt Groff. Thank you, Matt, for your support. Thanks, Neil Johnson as well. Alex Price. Alex Price says, at what point do Democratic voters get sick of not having control of who they want for their candidate? It will be the exact same reason Trump wins again. I think a bunch of Democratic voters feel like Alex does. Gordon Gott says, will the Democratic Party implode? Look, if Biden doesn't drop out and then he loses, and not to mention if he drags down Democratic candidates so that they lose the House and the Senate. But even if just he loses, look, I do think there's a lot of anger out there at the leadership by the. I don't know for sure, but I think there's a lot of anger from the base at the leadership. Thanks so much, Al3. That's very generous of you, Al3. So Al3, just to be clear, I am expressing my opinions some on this stream, but I don't believe those are biased opinions. So when I get up there and I say, the press secretary said Biden performed that way for 2 reasons, and one of them that he had a cold. And I say, well, that's just ridiculous for someone to say that that kind of performance in a debate would be due to a cold. That's not biased. That to me is a reasonable opinion, that any reasonable opinion would have somebody. A biased opinion is where you decide whether you agree or disagree with somebody, or you decide in advance what you think about something before actually looking at the evidence in a balanced and open-minded way. So I don't, every time the press secretary says something, I don't say, oh, she's an idiot, or I don't believe her and she's wrong. Most of the time, I don't have any problem with what she said. But it doesn't really bother me in any way. But this is just a case where, similarly to how I would sometimes get annoyed at something in Trump press conferences, it was just somebody getting up there and saying something that was completely ridiculous to me. But that's having an opinion. That's not being biased, because I don't care if she's a Democrat or Republican. So now a point you might be making is like, I'd prefer you to never have opinions on your coverage. I understand, because a lot of time I don't give such strong opinions. Sometimes stuff comes up and I just feel like, well, that needs to be pointed out. I can't not point that out. But that's not, again, I have made similar comments when a Republican would say something ridiculous too. So, I'm sorry if you don't want an opinion. But sometimes I give them. Sometimes I feel like I need to give them. If it's an egregious enough thing that I see somebody say, I think it needs to be said. But I understand where you're coming from. So if you're not used to me giving my opinion. But Al3, I really appreciate your note and your support. It's very kind of you. So very generous of you. Thank you so much. Al the Third, very nice of you. Al says, in past political stories you covered over the years. Thank you, Al Third. Yeah, it's just a lot of streams I don't really have a strong opinion. I hate when people say stuff that is just absolutely ridiculous. And it's just again, there's a point at which it's just insulting to be told this. And also I do think it's newsworthy because, again, that the White House is in a place where, after deliberation After days they had to decide how to respond to this, the press secretary is coming out and saying something like he had a cold. I mean, to me, it just showed that it suggests that things are really messed up in the White House. To me, it's just an opinion, but I think it's newsworthy. That's the White House process is now such that the result of that process is her coming out and telling America that he acted that way because he had a cold. That's a messed up process if that's the result it's producing. Thank you, Dylan, for your support. I really appreciate it, Dylan. Thank you. Thank you also, Secret Schools, for your support. Wickedest Witch, thanks for being a new member. Again, thanks, Al the Third. That's very kind of you. And Red Squirrel 82. Very much appreciate your support. Let me shout out our moderators. The reason that we can have chat rooms where you people of different opinions can exchange your opinions in a civil and respectful way is because we have the moderators. We couldn't have the chat rooms without them. They're the ones keeping it respectful in there. So big thanks to our mods. We got AJ there, Ruth Krafasi, Havasu Mom. They're the ones who have to listen to all you guys all the time. Everything you say. I can take a break and talk to the camera for a little bit. Now, I like reading the comments, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Some of that stuff said in the chat can sometimes go over the edge. So the mods are there to keep it respectful. So I really appreciate it. Cynthia Moon is there modding. Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X, over there on Twitch. Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, LB Prairie, Don, Sarah, and Papa Bear. Margaret Riley's on Facebook moderating. K. Larry Body, Christina Neal, thank you. It's also really striking to me because, again, you know, whether you agree with this White House or not, again, I've watched press briefings before. I don't remember in the past. I mean, maybe there's been some times when they said stuff at White House press briefings and I was like, I don't really agree with that. But I don't remember being like, oh my gosh, what you just said is absolutely just crazy, crazy, crazy talk. So it's like especially weird to just all of a sudden be hearing this stuff. Thanks so much, Mandy, for your support. I appreciate it, Mandy. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is a story where stuff could happen at any time. So it's like an ongoing story. And I do think there might be more people coming out over time, especially if more bad poll numbers come out for Biden and say, I'm not on board with him. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to pull out or not. But this is like a fluid situation. Josh Z says, Democrat rank and file won't vote for Trump, but will they come out to the polls? Will they vote for Jill Stein, Cornel West, or Kennedy instead? Trump is up by 6 points now, and it's all of the swing states, including New Hampshire. If they don't change him out, it's over. Look, I think a good point that Josh Z makes is it's not just about will people not vote for Biden because of Thursday. Will they switch to Trump? I mean, obviously, turnout is important. And I certainly agree with Josh that there might be people out there who were getting ready to vote for Biden, and then they see the debate and they don't like Trump, but they're really not on board with Biden. They just don't vote. That certainly could happen. Hey, thanks, Sonic. Sonic says, I wonder who Trump views as the easy opponent. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's in Trump's head. I could see a world in which, given the debate performance, he would prefer to have Biden stay in the race. And maybe, look, maybe I think the debate was a huge deal, personally, to a lot of regular voters who don't pay attention to news all the time, and that kind of thing will stick with them. I think it's a huge deal. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but if Trump thinks it's a big deal, I think somebody else who ran against him would not have that debate performance. But I don't know what he's thinking. Lady Trucker says, my concern is who would replace him. Well, you would have to have some kind of mini campaign, I think. Whether it's a month and a half or 2 months, and debates among these candidates, they would have to work it out and figure out how to do it. But you'd have to have whatever candidates there are be exposed a lot to Democratic voters so they could choose a candidate. And look, it's not going to be a primary. It would be the delegates choosing. But maybe, I'm sure if there were 7 or 8 candidates running, there would be polls of Democratic voters. Delegates would get out there and talk to other Democratic voters. So maybe there'd be a way for the delegates to get a sense of what a lot of other Democrats feel. The student handicap says, none of this will go away until Biden does something live. Youth thinks Biden is going to win despite the naysayers. Look, if he runs and he wins, I'll say I was wrong. AP is reporting that at least one member of Biden's finance committee predicted that the president would not survive the critical political crisis. AP also reports the conversation among many insiders has begun to shift from whether Biden should stay in the race to the logistics of his departure. By the way, my current plan is to cover the British elections tomorrow. Dwayne Stanridge says Trump is the convicted felon. Why no calls for him to drop out for real? I mean, I guess that's not, for me, that's not what I'm streaming about right now. If you're talking about the New York Times editorial page, I mean, they called for Biden to drop out, and some people said they should have called for Trump to drop out. They've been very negative about Trump, so. I guess I'm guessing for some people it's just not, they're just focusing on Biden right now, and it's not really on their radar to say Trump. Maybe in the past they've said they don't like Trump and he shouldn't be president, but they haven't called for him to drop out. So anyways, is it hypocritical to if you don't like Trump, to not say he should drop out? But I mean, some people might just think, well, there's a difference between saying somebody shouldn't be president because you don't like them and you don't like their policies and stuff, and somebody shouldn't be running for president because they have some kind of, perhaps age-related cognitive incapacity issue. So that might be two different things for people. Let me just see if we have any other reports coming out about this. But again, news can come out about this at any time, really. So I will keep checking, because who knows when some news story will come out about this. Then someone in the White House might leak something and all that. By the way, this CNN poll that came out yesterday, in that poll, 3/4 of U.S. voters said the Democratic Party would have a better shot at holding the presidency if someone other than Biden ran. In that poll, Trump also had a 6% lead over Biden, which was the same result they had in April in the CNN poll. So that is a big deal. If bad poll numbers keep coming out from Biden, I think that's going to be a big deal as well. Hey, thanks to Seasoned Pixels, who says, I'm baffled they didn't see this coming. There is this question I've heard this thought thrown around that some like people, I don't know if it's like members of the press or prominent Democrats, feel that the White House, has been sheltering Biden for the last several years, and they knew stuff was worse than they were letting on. Whether that's true, I don't know. Thanks also Brad Boda, who says, per odds checker, Michelle is favored to be next up in front of Newsom and Harris. Can this be the biggest threat to Trump? I have not heard anything from Michelle Obama saying she'd be willing to run. I've never, not a peep. So until I hear anything from her saying she's willing to run, I'm going to assume she's not running. Also, I don't know, it's like, I'm not familiar with her as a political candidate, so I don't know how if she was actually in the process and debating and stuff, would the Democratic voters like her? I mean, it's easy to answer a poll question, but if she actually went through this process, how would people feel about her? I don't know. But again, I haven't heard anything from her suggesting she wants to run. Aaliyah says she's not going to run. So, and given that that's not anything I've heard about, I'm going to assume she isn't. Now, maybe she gave a quote about it or something, but I haven't heard anything saying she said she wants to run. Forbes says in her popular memoir, Becoming, she said repeatedly and strongly that she rejected notions of a presidential run. She said at the end of 2017, of her husband's second term in 2017, nope, I'm not going to do it. Oh, in 2019, she said she wasn't going to run. Again, I haven't heard anything saying she would run. So until I hear something from her, I'm going to assume she's not running. Thanks, Walter Beasley, for your support. Walter thinks in it to win it means he's not listening to us. Regarding Season Pixels said, I'm baffled they didn't see this coming. Look, there were some people in the Democratic Party who thought that there should be a competitive primary. And they didn't think that nobody, that Biden just be kind of given the nomination. And they worried about the age thing. So, but we're at where we're at. All right, guys. Bug Johnson says, Joe Biden said earlier today that he is not dropping out, so I ask, please stop promoting the idea that he may drop out. Well, I'm sorry, but a politician saying they won't do something is to me not a great guarantee they won't do something. So that's all I'll say about this. Along with other prominent people like sports coaches, all kinds of prominent people say, I'm not going to do something, and then they do it. So if I genuinely thought it was 100% certain, or even like 95% certain that he'll never drop out, believe me, I wouldn't spend time covering it. But I don't think it's that certain. It's important. He's the president of the United States. It's a big story whether he runs or not. Chiba says, literally happens all the time. Right. Daniel Bomberson says, like it or not, this is newsworthy. It's a huge story. Whether the president might not run? When's the last time that happened? Well, Lyndon Johnson, what happened? It happened with Lyndon Johnson. But it's an enormous story. But I appreciate your sending in your opinion, Bug. Yeah, and then, Rob Conitzer sent me, I talked about this earlier, but there was like a fundraising email that went around earlier today from the Biden campaign where he said, I'm not dropping out. Again, he's saying now he's not dropping out. Fine. He's saying it right now. Thank you, Wellen. Wellen, thanks for your support. I appreciate it. All right. Well, we might have, at this point, covered the big updates for today. Oh, thanks so much, Louis R., too. Louis R. thinks if the debate performance was bad, the way it's been handled has been even worse. It's obvious Biden can only stop the story by taking questions from the press in a live setting. Him not doing that is just glaring. That's what Louis thinks. And yeah, I mean, why is he not doing it? I'm guessing the people who work in the White House are not stupid. So I'm guessing they know that it would probably be preferable, all things other things being equal, for him to go out and do a live press conference. He hasn't done a lot. Has he done? I don't believe he's ever done a live primetime press conference. Mark Knoller, who's a White House reporter, said he hadn't. But has he gone out and just done like an hour or two press conference at all, where he just says, I'm going to answer whatever questions people ask. I'm not going to have the questions in advance. Let's just do it for a couple hours. Has he done that? I don't know that he has. Certainly not recently, right? Am I wrong about this? But yeah, that town halls, But my point is, I'm sure people in the White House know, like, yeah, that would probably be a good thing to do, but there's no sign of him doing it. Now, why is there no sign of him doing it? Does he not want to do it? Does his staff not want him to do it? I don't know. But it's not happening. It's nothing I've heard said it's happening so far. So he's doing an interview with George Stephanopoulos that's taped in advance? Great. So let me see here. So like Axios has an article where they say Biden has done 36 press conferences, either solo or with other government or foreign leaders. The thing is, though, and they say among the 7 most recent presidents, only Ronald Reagan had fewer. But that's like, they're counting as a press conference when like Biden will be at the White House with like the Chancellor of Germany, and they'll each take 3 or 4 questions, and they'll call on the reporters, right? And it lasts for 45 minutes. And they speech for 20 minutes. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about whether you just go out and say, I'm going to take an hour and a half or whatever, or 2 hours. Ask me whatever. I'm here. I don't know if he's done that. I don't know. I don't remember covering it ever. Devil Dog think he hasn't done that. Again, I don't remember. I don't remember covering it. Pleb says he's never done that. Is this a conservative channel? No. The point is, though, Louis R. was saying that he thought that, given the way the debate went, something that Biden would need to do to help convince doubters after the debate is go out there and have a press conference like this. And so what we're talking about is, well, that's not something he ever does, though. I mean, you're not going to do another debate right away. Maybe never. So the idea would be to put yourself in a situation that's like a debate, where you're on the spot, you don't know what's coming, and you're out there for a while, and you're taking questions. And it's live. Thank you, Maria Madrigal, for your support. She says, this is politics. We will see who makes the next move. All right, guys. Hey, that's so kind of you. Lindsay Ann, thanks for the generous support of the channel, Lindsay Ann. That is very, very nice of you. Thank you, Lindsay Ann. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Also, thanks to Warlord Wolf for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks, Desi, for your support on Twitch. Uh-oh, I'm behind on the Twitch thank yous again. My fault. Tatermong subscribed on Twitch. Karcha and SD, thanks for subscribing on Twitch. The Stink, thanks for subscribing on Twitch. Jackson22. Jackson, for the bits. Jackson thinks Biden will still win. Thanks, by the way, to Serge Checks a lot and Dig Lit with that for gigantifying emotes. Ugh, I'm so bad. I'm so behind on the Twitch. I forgot. I'm sorry. Behind on the Twitch thank yous. Good Dog, thanks for the on-screen celebration on Twitch. Good Dog 9 and Message Effect. Message Effect says sticking to the talking points. I think that Message Effect was talking about, Good Dog 9 said sticking to the talking points. I think he might have been talking about the Democratic governors. And Dawson 609, thanks for the on-screen celebration. By the way, Good Dog thinks that Biden's family, especially Jill Biden, is adamant that Joe stays in the race. I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. I don't know for sure what's going on there. Thanks, Wheelie HD, for subscribing on Twitch. Beautiful Profanity for giving out a sub. Boy, am I behind. Sorry, Twitch folks. I got way behind on the thank yous on Twitch. All right. Guys, I think it might be time. I would not be surprised if we cover this more in the coming days. But for right now, I'm not seeing big updates at the moment. All right. I think it's time, guys. I think it's time to wrap up the stream. But this, I'll say it again, it's a story where stuff can happen at any time, this story. At any time, there might be a change with this story. So we will be on it. If there's more developments, I'll come back on and do more live streams. But this is a big, big story. Okay, I really appreciate you guys joining the coverage for this today. Thank you so much. Also, big thanks for your chatting in the chat room and letting me read your comments on the air. Sorry, I mean, I tried to read a bunch of comments. I know there were a bunch more I didn't read, so too many to read all at once, but I appreciate you posting them there. Oh, thanks to Billy Joe Drage as well from Australia. Thanks so much, Billy Joe. That's very nice of you. And Kay Crimlin as well. Thank you for your support. But yeah, I appreciate you tuning in. And I anticipate there being more on this story to cover. So we'll keep an eye out. But again, stuff can happen at any time with this story. So keep an eye out. We'll see what happens. Generally don't know what's going to happen here. And subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. Agenda Free TV. And make sure you turn notifications on so you get notified, because I don't know when we're coming on. Depends on when the news happens. We have a free notification system. You click on the link, you sign up, it's through Discord, it's free, and you get sent a notification right before we go live every single time. So do that. The mods will post the link to the notifications. You can find that link in the Facebook and YouTube description for this broadcast as well. Hey, thanks to everybody who donated to the channel. That is super nice of you guys. I really appreciate that. Your support is what keeps this channel on the air. And thanks for letting this channel exist. Very much appreciate your support for the channel. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But thank you. Huge thanks to you. And a huge thanks again to our moderators who make it so that we can actually have chat rooms that you can chat in. Big, big thanks. We've been very busy this past few days, and our mods have always been there. So thank you so much to our mods. AJ and BZ and Ruth Krafasi over there on YouTube. Have a Sumam there now. All of our YouTube mods who've been in and out today. Linda Belk and Larry on X, Kinetic over there on YouTube, over on Twitch, Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, I Got That Fire, Sarah and Papa Bear, and on Facebook, K. Larry Body, Margaret Riley, Christina Neal, all of our Facebook mods, thank you for being there. Much appreciated. And what was I going to mention? Oh, thanks to our Discord moderators, and we also have a Discord chat where you can chat when we're not on. You can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air, and you can look at the Discord chat. The way you go to the Discord chat, it's the same link as the notifications. You can check out the Discord chat there as well. So check that out if you'd like. And if anybody wants to be a volunteer moderator, that would be amazing. Sometimes there's a wait list, but you can ask our mods for more information. A quick reminder too: if you subscribe on YouTube. If you want to get the YouTube notifications, you got to do this kind of funky thing where you click this bell. You got to, on YouTube, if you want to get the YouTube notifications, click the subscribed bell and choose all notifications. I know it's weird, but that's what you got to do to get the YouTube notifications. So turn that on. And I do have a personal channel where I sometimes do non-news live streams. If you feel like checking that out, that's called Lookner on YouTube and Look Nerd with a D on Twitch. So check out the personal channel. I am planning on covering the UK elections tomorrow, unless something happens with this. So planning on doing some sort of UK election stream tomorrow. Thanks to Bruce Kaiser. Appreciate your support, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. Much appreciated. And I want to say thanks to our Facebook subscribers and our Twitch subscribers and our YouTube moderators for all of your support. YouTube moderators, our YouTube members for all of our support of the channel. Huge thanks over there on Twitch. Eve Richards, thank you for subscribing, Eve. Billy Joe Drage, Kay Larry Body, Margaret Riley. All of our subscribers over there. Leanne Ticknor, thank you, Leanne, for being a subscriber on Twitch. Robert Rial, the second. Thank you, Robert, for subscribing on not Twitch. I'm saying Twitch. Facebook. These are our Facebook subscribers. Thank you for subscribing on Facebook. All of our Facebook subscribers, thank you. And all of our Twitch subscribers, like Shaggy, Wall Street, Relila, I Got That Fire, Desi. Thanks so much for subscribing. Sir Checks a lot. Elistic. And Fruit Shop and all of our other subscribers. Beautiful Profanity, Warlord Wolf, Tatermong, Karcha and SD, The Stink. Thanks to all of our Twitch subscribers there and our YouTube members. PZ Papa Zulu, Dr. McRib, Mythical, LGTV, Red Squirrel, Lucky Minute, Jen R, Marissa Pugliese, Winding Road, Chalk Dust Torture, Dark Cloud, Connor Murphy, Tom Witcher, Walfam, French Toaster, Chris N. Thanks for being YouTube members. Hey, Sabrina was modding too. Thanks. No, I mean Sabrina's a member too. Thanks, Sabrina. J Marie 0817 as well. Cherry Sour, Cindy. Thanks for being members. Barbs. Gas on the Brain. LGTV 70. Reary Patton. Donald Mulligan. Pony Boy. Allie B from Tennessee. Excessive Fours. PZ Papa Zulu. Cats Go Nuts. Evelyn in Maine. Wickedest Witch. Randy J. Thanks for everybody for writing in with news updates as well and comments. Writing in on X. Thanks for doing that. Oh, did I mention my X account? I'll post updates on my X account if I'm not on the air. At Lookner on X. Follow me on X. At Lookner on X. Formerly Twitter. Monster Lynn, thanks for being a member. Tom Sawyer, Darren Parker, Racy, Beth Chakama, Barbs, Lunali Syria, Mary Arnold, and all of our other members. Jane Jones, Winding Road, thank you. Michael Regina. And thanks to our other members, our other viewers like VG, Ann Bowman, Jamie Rowland, Susan Parsow Lounsbury, Mary Ann Sell, all of our viewers, thank you for joining us. Ann Carolyn, Purple Joker says, I think he'll resign if he wins, then it's President Harris. That's what Purple Joker said. Thanks for watching. All right, guys. So we are wrapping this up. I will keep an eye out for new news on this. I'm just checking to make sure there's not any big new news right before I get off the air, but I'm not seeing it at the moment. All right, guys, that is it for now. You've been watching our live coverage of will Biden drop out of the race. We'll have to see what happens. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our moderators, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.